Welcome to the Hampshire 1900 start for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic, and we are picking up on the 4th of September 1932. Now, I want to start by saying, as usual, a big thank you for your comments and feedback. You guys give me a lot to think about, and I did get one comment which is going to be the basis of this video. In fact, I'm just going to speed the game up a little bit for a reason which I'll explain. Oh, look at that. Oh, wow. Slow down, slow down. Got to get a picture of that for the fun now. Just going to take a picture of that, guys. For the train. Right, picture taken. Back to the game. But I'm going to apologise in advance by saying that this is what one of my university lecturers used to call a talk, and this is going to be a talk and chalk session, which means I'm going to apologise in advance that we're probably going to get into some of the weeds and technicalities of the game. If it gets too much, guys, feel free just to quit and kind of go away. But at the same time, it's something that you do need to be aware of when you do an early start, that sometimes you've got to consider and plan things for the future to avoid long-term problems. But before we get in that, I just want to go through and talk about a few things that have come up, because we are about 3-4 months on from the end of the last part. The first thing I want to show you is down over here. If you watch the video, there was a issue which we had before with these vehicles here, and I said at the time I couldn't work out what they were doing, but I think I've worked out what it is. And if you look here, the age of the vehicle is 0.02 years. So what's actually happening is, and it seems to mainly relate to buses, that the vehicles are coming out of here, Dunbridge, but they don't have enough fuel to get to the route they're going. So what we're going to have to do is push them to there, and then once they get there, we can then hit the checker flag and actually get it. And this is something which I have encountered actually with in the late game, when you're replacing a lot of vehicles, because you're not building all the vehicle types. And it can say, for example, say we built up Hive here and we hadn't built anything around Dunbridge. What will happen is that if you're even replacing Soviet vehicles, say like, for example, say that, where is it? Say you were getting your vehicles from over here in Ringwood, it's still a long way to go. And if you don't build up Ringwood, then you'll have exactly the same problem with respect to replacing vehicles. You will get them running out of fuel before they actually get to where they're going. So there is an argument, though, is that what you do is, if you've got customs posts scattered around the map, over time, especially by the time you get to the mid to late game, so you're talking about 1990, 2000, you really want to have settlements near all your kind of custom posts, whether they're NATO or actual Soviet, because what that will do is alleviate the problem of vehicles not running out of fuel. So it's something you do need to think about in relation to your overall network. Now, what I'll do is, we're going to do now is just do a little bit of an update of where we are. So what we got here in Milford-on-Sea, things are going okay, and of course they're breaking through into this area where we planned this farm. I haven't planned any fields yet, because I need to think a little bit about, again, the problem we could have here, although this distance isn't quite so far. But what we might need to do is plan some form of road connection down into here. Although we got, for road vehicle replacement, we've got this, so the game will actually consider this point of view here. So you just speed the game up. Actually, I don't know why I'm playing slowly. But now, one decision I have taken is the fact that this railway line is a minor connection, and we're going to have to build track in to use this in the long term, because this is a large custom shed. So what I'm going to do is delay any track laying out here until, when's the date? I can't can't remember what the date is now. We go down here, we're looking for electrified concrete track, which I think is 41, 42. Yeah, 1941. 1942. So we will be looking at not laying any track here until we get to 1942 with respect to this industry here. So what we're going to do is just leave Milford on sea for the moment as a tourist centre. As I say, I did get a comment, someone was saying that they were successfully running their economy based on tourism, which makes sense. I mean, it is a good money spinner, especially if you can start producing your food and alcohol and meat, because then that your profits go, because then what that means is that your profits here, say for last month 33,000, becomes pure profit. So you've got a nice steady income there going there. Got vehicle imports again. So yeah, we'll vehicle replacement now is becoming a regular feature, which is a good segue into what we're going to be talking about. But I'm going to resist that just because I want to give you an update in Warstock, because I had a very interesting scenario over here when I was playing off camera. That is the fact that we don't really be getting enough workforce in here to really fully equip this. And what actually happened was that the fire station here wasn't fully manned, and what happened was that this caught fire, and when it caught fire I got 3 fire engines in here, but not enough fire crew to actually put the fire out. So what happened was is that the fire was in stasis, and what you'll see here is the wear and tear got up to 30%. And so the wear and tear was slowly moving up, and luckily I actually spotted it. And what I had to do was actually set a raw fire station here to 25%. That's actually now costing me workforce in these buildings here. And that will come even more significant when we actually start producing prefab panels. So this is a kind of one of these things in the game which can actually cause you problems. So what I've done is I've put another building here, and we're going to clear these away. We're going to build another J department in this corner here to try and get the workforce up into this area here so that we can get going. The other thing I've considered doing is actually putting another bus route in, but trouble is the bus route out to here is a long way, and this is something that you do need to consider when you're doing early starts, is the distances can become unviable. That's the reason why cableways are quite so important, quite significant, because even if you try to do it by trains are very slow, and I'm not even sure if we've actually got carriages available at the moment. Let me just have a quick look. Passenger wagons. Oh, we got a few passenger wagons here. We got there's one here which is with the DLC. We got another one here, 64 passengers, maximum speed 30 kilometers an hour to 30 kilometers an hour. So you can see here we've got, although these are 90 kilometers an hour, this one doesn't tell you. So you can use trains, but to be honest, I would kind of keep your distances with your buses to a relatively short distance. I mean, say from here to here is adequate, but at the same time it's kind of could be a bit of a problem. But this is where, if you got to send workers long distances, this is where cableways come into it big time. Now before we get in again, I just need to come back over here. Where are we? Right, this silo is now built. Add you to that. Unload 80-90%, because you are delivering to Crawley warehouse here, which is filling up very quickly. So the idea is these guys will pick up any surplus from here now and start kind of delivering it into here. Now it's only going to supply the brewery, but at the moment I've got a bit of a problem here with the fact that our storage is filling up. We're only on the 26th of September. You can see we've still got a lot more crops to harvest. So I think what I might do is also add you to it as well. I mean, if it fills up, it fills up, but 100%. So what I want to do now is use these guys to kind of overfill into these areas when necessary. So that is something that we do need to consider. So we've now reached the chalk and talk time, and I want to begin by talking about why this is very important. That and it's all based on a comment I got where somebody posted and said that they were playing on a map where there wasn't a lot in the way of resources, similar to what I've got. I've got iron up over Warstock, and I've got limited coal, which is scattered all over the map. That means that setting up a steel industry that can service the whole map, especially down onto the Isle of Wight here, is going to be a challenge. Now, if you're playing on a map with limited resources, it's attempted to say, well, I'm going to play the whole game through, right through to 2000, and I'm not going to worry about that industry. I'm just going to import what I want. Now, that is a reasonable approach. I won't say it's a bad approach, but what you need to be aware of that this game is all about self-sufficiency. And one thing you need to consider is, even if you've got a map that's got absolutely no coal or iron deposits on it at all, you've got to find a ways to start producing your own steel by importing the coal and iron. Now it may seem counterintuitive, but the thing you need to remember, and this is a bit of a hidden mechanic that you can catch people out. We go to the economy here and we go up to current prices. If I show you the current price of steel, you can see that at the moment our steel is 400 and, well, we can buy at 529 rubles per ton. Now if I come down to here and click on all, don't worry about the date there. This feature will only go back to the earliest start date, 1930. What you will see is that this game has an inbuilt inflation. So when we started out, we were paying, we were buying at 212 rubles per ton in 1900. Now 30 years later, we are buying at 554. Now this inbuilt inflation will go forward very quickly. So by the time I get to say 1960 and go into the, even up to 1990, this could be 1,000, 2,000 rubles per ton. I'm not saying it will be, because obviously this is an inbuilt inflation, and there is an inflationary matter there. Now if you look at coal, if we go to coal, and again you can see that the inflation forces with coal is a little bit lower. So we're buying at 212, and you see that the buy price for coal is only risen by a few rubles over 30 years. And that also applies to iron. If we show you iron, you can see that growth is very low. But of course, another mechanic that you need to be aware of is that when you start importing coal and iron, if you start importing large quantities of it, that will drive an inflationary pressure. There's a mechanic that says, oops, just want to check that fire. There is a mechanic, whoops, there is a, no, yeah, it's no problem. So there is this mechanic in the game where if you import large amounts of any material, that will create an inflationary price. There's also the counter of that, and this is where a lot I've had the occasional comment saying, oh, I've been exporting this, I've been importing, say, for example, coal or gravel or something, and I'm not making as much money, because if you start exporting large amounts of a resource, the price will fall. Now, it doesn't fall permanently. What it means, but because if you suddenly stopped exporting it, what will happen is that the price will go back to the inflationary price, not the old price, but it will drop back down to what the game regards as what the market price is. So what you've got built into the game is inflationary. So what you do need to do is still work towards self-sufficiency, even if you don't have the key resources on the map. Now, one tip I will give you, if you've got a map that's poor in resources, but if it has uranium, now I can't show you uranium because we haven't done the research, but one tip, if you've got a map that's got very poor resources, especially if you start in 1960, go for uranium. Now, the reason I'm saying you go for uranium is the fact that if you've done the research, which we haven't, so I can't show it to you here, if you go through this chain here to you actually make nuclear fuel, I don't know if the game will still give me a price for the nuclear fuel. Nuclear fuel, you can see at the moment that this nuclear fuel, at the moment, we can sell nuclear fuel, if we could manufacture it, for 197,000 rubles per ton, and that price will rise slightly over time. So if you're looking for a really good long-term money spinner, especially if you're starting in 1960 and you find nuclear fuel somewhere on the map, preferably close to an export point, is go from nuclear fuel, make it, and start making it, start exporting it. You don't have to go the whole hog. And the nice thing about manufacturing nuclear fuel is you don't have to deal with nuclear waste. You've got to deal with a lot of hazardous waste, but not nuclear waste. So even if you don't use the nuclear fuel for power generation, which is a totally different discussion, it's something that you do need to actually consider. So what we're talking about is the fact that even if you don't have the resources, and even if you're short on coal and iron, what you need to do is exactly what I've got to do, because as I say, we've got iron over here, but this is going to be impractical. And probably a good example is that what we'll probably do is when we get over to the Isle of Wight, which probably won't be until about 1990, something like that, is that I will be planning some kind of steel plant over on the map on the Isle of Wight, because there's always a certain amount of steel that you're going to need. Now, again, it's one of the things that new players don't realise is they focus on the cost of the steel for construction, but what you've got to remember is that you've got lots of other industries that will need steel, like making electronics. There's also probably the big one is actually producing vehicles, because again, another cost that will develop over time is, as your economy grows bigger and bigger, is the cost of replacing vehicles, because these prices aren't static either. So for example, if we can look at, I don't know if we can actually get the vehicle prices. I don't think we can actually see the increase, but what will happen is that there's a kind of double inflation here, in the fact that as you buy newer and newer vehicles, say for example open holes, as these go up, at the moment we're paying 5,000. Eventually, as the newer vehicles come in, there will be a corresponding price increase. And a good comparison here is that when we started, we were buying horse-drawn vehicles at 926 rubles each. And we've now got up to these vehicles, some of these coming up here in price. So again, you've got this inflationary effect, which means that by the time we get to about 1980, 1990, we're going to need a vehicle production facility. a lot more sophisticated than the tiny little vehicle production facility that we've got over here, down here, which is kind of chugging booming out here. There's no way this is going to replace all the vehicles, and that is shown in the sense here. Not if I show you this list, you can see here that we're already incurring regular costs now of 5,000 rubles, because we are regularly replacing vehicles now. You can see this was replaced on the 19th of October 1902. This is a Russo Bolt sewage truck, and that is actually reflected in our economy. So I go back to this year, we've already spent 210,000 on imported vehicles. Now, some of that will be vehicles that I've actually bought, but you can see here we've spent $7,000 on replacement vehicles as well. But this cost will continue to rise, and that's the reason why eventually you can start to lose money on here. So that is something it's a bit of a hidden cost that you actually do need to go here. Oh, these guys should be, yep, we've got a decent workforce now. Look at that. So I've now kind of made the economic reason for building an iron and steel mill, and I've already kind of mentioned it up here, and the fact that we've got iron here. So what we're going to have to try and do is get the maximum amount of iron out of this area to build a major industry. But despite the fact that this will provide a major industry to this area, it's still not going to really be able to supply the whole map, because technically this is in the wrong place. And by the wrong place is the ideal place for an iron and coal mine. This is something you want to consider when you are planning your long-term logistics. And so is to have a good strong deposit of coal and iron near the center of the map, because what that means is you can set up a logistics system that can distribute the steel to all across the map. The problem we're going to have here is that we can get a strong steel industry in this area, but shipping it all the way out to here, say across to Milford-on-Sea, is going to be a challenge. Now, some of you may say, well, you've got to actually ship it out, but of course the problem is that you will need to ship steel eventually for construction. But more importantly, and this is where the logistics of the game come into, is if we come back to here, is that you will have to repair your vehicles, and of course vehicles need steel, and every town you build will need to have some access to steel and these resources. Now bear in mind that this is a tiny little repair bay, but eventually what we'll be graduating to is these things, and you can see that these will be a lot bigger, and because there's no way this little repair station here is going to be able to repair say here down to Southampton. And probably a better example is here. In fact, I might as well check it while I'm thinking about it, because truthfully no, you're still ahead of the curve at the moment. And of course one thing that you do want to do is check this regularly as well, which you might as well do the entire map. Yeah, the building maintenance is good, but what we are looking for, so we got a Russo Bolt here in Eastleigh with 52%, so we haven't got anyone that's got excessive wear and tear. But you can see here that as these come more and more, you're going to get more and more repairs actually needed. Whew. So hopefully that's laid down the foundation of what your long-term planning is going to be. So what we're going to do now is come over to here, because I've had a little bit of a thought, because we got a coal industry here, and what I'm thinking is power, because one thing advantage we can get from here is the fact that we can put our first proper coal-fired power station down here. Now we've got this one, that's hydroelectric, This will produce 600 megawatts, which is not as powerful as I would like, but I don't think we've got anything else. We've got this 1930s power station here, which I like, to be honest. It's actually going to produce more power, but it's probably going to produce more pollution as well. Actually, no, sorry. Let's get back here. Yeah, that's going to produce 59 tons of pollution compared to 22, but it does produce a lot of power. Now, one of the downsides of this is it's going to produce 1,320 tons of power, which is still less than the full-size coal one here. But I think I'd be tempted to build that here. What is the pollution on this one? 39 tons, 59 tons. I think we are going to go with that. I think we are far enough away to actually, or could I push this back a little bit further? The problem's going to be is we got that there. I'm wondering if we could get, how big is this? The trouble's going to be is that if I put that there, we don't have output there on this side. I don't want to put it there because that's our coal. I think we're going to have to put it here, aren't we? And just take a chance on the pollution. Now we can actually clean up our pollution over here with research. In fact, I haven't checked this in research. Where is our pollution management? Right, we've got full pollution already researched. So I think we can afford here. I mean, to be honest, if I keep the buildings here to this side of the cableway, I think we're getaway. Just have a quick measure actually. Let me just see. If we measure from here, it's pretty no, that's way too close. Right, what we're going to have to do is go for the actual in-game one. Well, we're going to have to go for 22 tons, to be honest. And then we'll just have to consider another bigger power station. We're going to have to build power stations all over the map anyway, so maybe I was getting a little bit carried away there. Okay, that's the wrong way round. Let me just flip that. I can get you. I could, if I put you there, could I get a direct feed off of that there? But there's a good chance we won't actually be able to make a connection across there. I think we will go with this. We just have to try and get it like that. We'll need to make sure that this has got, yep. Okay, so build that. And we can put in a okay, we'll put in a gravel road here. Now the next question is going to be is, can we get the workforce from here to there? This is where we may need to get a little bit creative. And we're going to use an asphalt footpath. We get the asphalt footpath through there. Trying to think if we put you there. 343. Here comes the snow. I didn't really want the snow, but is that going to be close enough? Yeah, great. If that wasn't good enough, there is a way that you can actually improve it. Actually, I think I think this might be a little bit. I do it that way. Now 330. One way that you can actually increase this is by putting in pergolas, if I can find them. Is put these in. But if you put a pergola in to a footpath, what you can do is you can actually increase the distance by 10 meters. One thing I will say is don't put pergolas, say for example, let me just do it very, very quickly. Don't do this. If we come, where is it? Oops. Let me just do it this way. Don't be very careful when you do something like that, because what can happen is the game, pergolas are subject to building maintenance the same as everybody else. So if you're not careful, what can happen is that you can isolate a pergola and then the pergola will actually collapse. So be a little bit careful about where you're going. So we've got the coal mine here. Not coal mine, sorry, power station. What connections we got now here? We've only got one outbound connection. Okay. Now that's going to give me another dilemma. Because this is going to be producing 600 megawatts, isn't it? That means it's got a circuit breaker of 10 megawatts. That means that our highest one at the moment is 8. And we got 10 and we got 13. So we've got to go for high voltage wires. There's no point going above 10 megawatts. 10 megawatts, for anyone who's not been playing the game from the beginning like me, used to be the maximum capacity on a power line. Modern electric pylon, so 1934. So what we're going to need is a switching station, but a high voltage switching station. Now we've got a little bit of dilemma here, in the sense that we're going to use this as the switching station for the actual coal-fired power station. Now, to be able to get the coal-fired power station operational, we've actually got to put power in first. Plus, I would like to get all this finished out here so that we could, if possible, get this fire station manned. Can you actually get to the fire station? Yes, you can. Is there a... It's going to do that. So we got this power substation here. So what we're going to need here, we'll build the infrastructure back this way. Now the actual coal-fired power station, you'll see here, will distribute power locally. So, but it won't cover this whole area. So what we're going to need to do is put in a, not one of those, one of these. So we're going to have to put a connection there, which will give the power. And what we are going to need is, that's a 5 megawatt. We're going to run a I think I'm going to run this underground. Now comes the fun bit, because we've got a power coming in here. We're going to need this power to actually get this area operational and safe. But at the same time, I don't want this area, because this coal-fired power plant will actually want to draw power to run our steel industry, which will probably be up here somewhere, I think. So what we need to do is be able to protect this area here. So we got power to here, which is running down here. At the moment it's not drawing much power, but I don't want this grid to draw power out from this hydroelectric plant, which at the moment is doing a grand job supporting this. So my instinct is to build, what's it? Where is it? Is this. And put this in. The trouble is, this will, we can't put power from here to here to get this operational. That's an interesting concept. So we need power to here. We're not going to split the power off from that point, but we will probably need more power in this area. I think what we're going to do is I'm going to put one of these about here. I'm going to put you there. Oh, come on, game. Okay, let's get that. Okay, we'll put you up here because we're not going to build anything here. So put you slightly at the, actually we'll put you like that so it looks relatively neat and tidy. I think that connection there. Go underground and we will run the okay, you're gonna need to go down. We'll run you to there. Right, so we can provide all the power we need from here, and if necessary, because we've also got supplementary power coming from there. Well, so at the moment we're not really overloading our systems. What we can do is build a substation here. So I think actually no, I'm going to change this. What we're going to do is change this, and we are going to build a we're going to build a 4-4 substation here. Okay. Actually, I can. Is this higher? This is 8 megawatts. So okay. Well, actually, what we're going to do is, I'm not exactly sure why I'm going underground, but if we, can I come in this way? It's going to cross over the cableway, but I don't think we'll electrocute anybody. So what we'll have is an 8 megawatt power line running into here, which is a little bit over the top, but we could have gone 6 actually, but 8's okay. So we got that here, so it means that we can then put in one of these down here later on. But begin with, what we're going to do is run a run a 6 megawatt line. To there. Just make sure this connects up. Is that actually... Let's just make sure this is connected. I always like to double check when I build lines up. So what we're going to do is to begin with, to get this area up and running, we're going to provide power from here via this 6 megawatt line. Once we got this area operational, what we will do is we will reverse the power line here so that this can supply power to here, but it won't, but the coal mine here or the power station here won't draw power from this area, if that makes sense. So what we're doing is protecting this area from being drained, because of course this will feed into a wider grid which will run the steel industry and other bits and pieces. What we will do is we will take a power line from here, because of course we've got to run power out here, so we're going to need to build a small town here in Cosham to provide fire coverage for this area. Just have a look here. Yeah, we got power there. Let me just think this through. We can isolate the coal-fired power station from here, which will mean that this will provide our industry and our power going this way. What we'll most likely do is put another hydro plant here to supply Southsea and this, which will be part of a more wider grid which will supply Warstock from here. So this will be a self-contained power zone, and then the coal-fired power station will supply the industry and will run up through here to our, so it will drive this industry, and then of course it will feed into a wider grid, because once we've done this research down, where is it? Where's the power grid lines? This one here in 1934. This will give us access to 18 megawatt high-powered lines, which will then form the backbone of our grid, which will go that way, with a view to eventually connecting up all these areas here. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. I need to think about bringing the power out here, so which is going to be risks. I think we might need to build a small community in Cosham, but that will need to be developed. So we've got that there. We've got our iron and steel industry. Now, returning to the talking chalk again, I want to talk about something which you do need to think about very, very carefully. Wow, what are these guys doing? Where are you all going to? These guys really like to build their footpaths, don't they? Got a little bulldozer pushing up the front there. Because this is another trap that new players will often fall into. In fact, even experienced players, I forget about this. So if we go back to the economy and we go back to here, we're now going to talk about the wonderful world of electronics. And if we go to all again, what you'll see here is when we started in 1900, we could buy electronics for, if I can get it over the top here, for 298 rubles per ton. Now, 32 years later, we are now paying 1,863 rubles per ton. In fact, it's actually been a bit misleading, because it's actually, according to here at the moment, we're paying 1,901 rubles per ton. Now, this is going to constantly spiral, because electronics has got a kind of a double whammy associated with it. The cost of your electronics will spiral very, very quickly. And bear in mind that we're probably already paying prices, which is, say, if you start in 1960, we're now already paying prices in 1930 for electronics, which you would not normally pay until the late 1980s on your normal game. Now, this will continue to increase and increase and increase. So self-sufficiency in electronics is quite important. And of course, to be self-sufficient in electronics, you've got to build electro components, which then spins back to, if we come up to here, and we've already got some we've got electro component capacity, which is steel. And you can see to build 1.8 tons of electro components is we need 0.77 tons of steel, and to build that's electrical components, electronics. I don't think and you can see here to build electronics, we need electro components 1.1 tons. So, and more importantly, we also need mechanical components where we can build here, which needs, so to get 4 tons of mechanical components, we need 6 tons of steel. Now, again, mechanical components is not something that you need a lot of, but again, if I come back to here, apologies that I keep coming back to these prices, but it's something that you do need to be aware of. If we come here and go to all again, you can see again we started off by buying mechanical components at 663 rubles per ton, and we are now already up to over 1,000 rubles per ton for mechanical components. And apologies that I keep repeating this, but to be honest, the steel industry is what drives your overall economy. As you know, if you don't have your steel industry, if you're paying to import steel, again, just to reinforce that, we go back to here, and again, you can see that we're already paying 539 tons per ton. That's already up from, so you can say it's more than double price in 30 years. So if you imagine that you're importing steel to try and make electro components, electronics, so when you're going for self-sufficiency, you've got to get down to the nuts and bolts. Now, I've already talked about the steel industry here, which we're going to develop now. What I am going to do now is talk about the scenario where you don't actually have any coal or steel on the map. And technically, we've got coal here. I don't think I can do any leveling just at the moment because I don't think I've got anything. We'll just... Oh, we can do a little bit of leveling anyway. But in here, I've actually got coal mines. Where's it? And you can see we've got 76. We've got probably 1, 2. We've got 3, possibly 4 coal mines here. So we've got a lot of coal, but we don't have any steel. But what we do have is plenty of space here. So what we can do is actually import the iron. Never ever import iron ore. The reason for that is that, again, if we go back to metallurgy, if you look at the iron processing plant, you basically, if to try and process your own iron, you think, oh, I'll save money, but you need 120 tons of iron ore to produce 56 tons of iron. So you're going to spend a lot of resources shipping in large quantities of iron ore. And to be honest, you can import iron ore by train, but by far the best way to import iron ore is by ship. And this is the reason why I'm kind of looking at this point here, that we could, in fact, I'd be very inclined to actually, we got coal there, we got that. You can build conveyor lines. Now, the problem with the steel mill is it produces a lot of pollution. So getting a steel mill in here is going to be interesting. But we could literally build a steel mill out here away from the map. The alternative is that we've got more coal up here. In fact, I'm probably a bit inclined because we won't need the steel mill to begin with. How much coal have we got here? Well, we can produce coal here. What's the pollution for producing coal? Coal mines, 12 tons, 8 tons. Yeah, what we could do is produce the coal here and then build quite a major steel industry here. We got Bewley, but Bewley, tough luck Bewley, you're just gonna have to live with the pollution. Plus we've got coal here. So what type? There we got 55% there, 50. So we got potentially 3 coal mines here. Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll probably build a steel industry here. Probably never develop Bewley. Just leave it there to kind of rot away. We can bring the workforce in from Leamington. Although Leamington should also be a beach resort, but maybe we can put the tourists on this side of town, or on this side of town actually. That'd be a bit close to the coal. So what we'll be talking about is building up a coal industry here. Probably importing the iron ore to here. It's a fair distance in though. Another option would be, but we got coal here. That's another option. We could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. What's the terrain like here? Not bad actually. We could actually expand into the Isle of Wight and create a steel industry here. And then what we could do is, I know that I've got a no bridge rule, but we could produce coal here and use a ship to transfer the coal over to here. And we can build a major steel industry, and then we can actually use ships to distribute the steel. That's an option. That means I'm going to need to think of developing the Isle of Wight a lot earlier than I should have done. What resources have we got on the Isle of Wight at the moment? Right, we've got bauxite on the Isle of Wight here. But the only bauxite we've got is here. So we could actually make this into an industrial end here. We've got no uranium. I can't remember where the uranium is on the map now, to be honest. We've got oil, so we've got an oil refinery there. We've got oil in this area as, yeah, because we got oil here, which overlaps with, yeah, I'm starting to get feel now. This oil is going to be very important, more important than coal and steel. The coal in this area is effectively out of reach because we're going to put oil refineries over the top of it. Oil pump jacks, sorry. So maybe Bewley's going to get a reprieve. We maybe get a little bit of coal here. Plus we got this major oil field which we're going to have to develop, which is going to be fun. Yeah, we're going to build a steel mill over here which will tie into the bauxite mill. And then of course eventually we will have aircraft production over here. So we need to make this into a shipping corner. The steel here can service this side of the map and also the Isle of Wight, although we might be able to ship steel over from here. And then the iron over here will push out this way. So this is what I'm talking about here now. I know I sound like I'm talking to myself, which is technically I am. This is the thought process that you need, even if you're starting on a very early start. I mean, I'm literally talking about plans for a long-term future, but this is something you do need to consider because it comes back to that issue with dealing with the economy and self-sufficiency. So that looks quite interesting, to be honest. We will need to kind of build up this area here. Now, based on that plan, it means it's going to take a long time to get a steel industry down in this area and to develop these coal mines. So what we're going to need to do is seriously consider ways to increase our economy, because otherwise those increasing costs are going to consume us. So this definitely has gone way up the priorities. Part of me says that, can we build, we've got electronics component factory. gravel, steel, and chemicals. Ooh, I'm starting to think here. What's the pollution on non-existent? Right. We've got a chemical plant here based on oil. I'm starting to think if we build South Sea over here, I think we're going to turn the map round, guys. This is our coal production. We've got our power station that's going to stink the place up, isn't it? This is 22 tons. Right. What we're going to do is we're going to have a little bit of a change in plans here. We're going to get rid of you because what we're going to do is in real life South Sea is here, but I think what we're going to do is move South Sea into where Portsmouth is, which would be over here, kind of along this corner here. And what we're going to try and do is get a chemical industry into here. But what it will mean is that we will probably need to import oil. Now we've got oil fields down there. So what we're going to need to do is put an oil import terminal here, because we can integrate that into the oil fields here. I think I really need to start putting a bit more focus on this area here, getting this online as well. Right, I now have a plan. All I've got to do now is just turn it into reality, which is going to be a bit of a challenge. Let me just see. Right, I'm aware that I've run out of time on this video, so what I'm going to do is just give a quick run round. And we've now built you. We've got people moving in. We're now starting to get a few more workers coming into here. This needs to be high priority, I think. I want to clear this away, because I think I'd like to get another J departments in here. We've got to boost the workforce in this area. I didn't actually... Ooh, that's not good. Let me just see how much we got in the way of crops. I think we're going to be doing a lot more farming in the short term. And these silos are full. How much did we get into this silo? Got 300 odd tons into there. They got that is full as well. This is looking good on the 17th of December. January. I think what I will do for the moment as an experiment is just make sure that there's no alcohol allowed in here yet, because the alcohol has to flow that way. I think what I might do is make this temperate, see how well the actual crop rotation is. That means we can push more crops into here, and then we're going to look more at exporting out from here. Okay. Anyway, this is where I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to clear all these messages. Right, so this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you found it interesting. We're on January 1933. I really feel the need to kind of try and get a few of these things actually done. Oops, but I need to do that as well. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play on for at least 6 months, possibly a year, depending on how much time I've got, so that we can kind of get forward a little bit further with the overall economy, especially with respect to down here, because at the moment I'm just waiting for the game to kind of catch up with the overall process, which is going to be quite important. So so this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you found it interesting, and until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.